here with Tully Television, and the Christmas season is here upon us. But we're not going to be talking about Santa Claus today. We're going to be talking about Pennywise. That's right, that's right. We're finally caught up. We're going to do the review of episode 7 of It Welcome to Derry, and I will say, this episode was wild, man. It was wild. It was literally, in my opinion, the best episode of the season so far. We are one away, and I will say, even though I just said that a few moments ago, this, oh man, this episode really kicks you right in the heart box. I tell you, we initially get how the entity chose Pennywise as the main image that he uses to scare children mainly and those around it. Bob Gray, back in the early 1900s, was a circus performer with his wife who had passed away. They would be known as Pennywise and Periwinkle. And like I said, we're circus performers. But something happened between then and up until that time where the wife passed away. And it was just Bob and his daughter, Ingrid, which we learned of their connection last episode. Let me stop moving the table there. And we can tell that even it opens up with him performing with the traveling circus. And the children like him, you know, they love him. We see the entity known as it watching him from a distance, right, in the form of a boy. Most likely a boy that he took and ate. So it seems to be very fascinated that the children are so drawn to him, because all this time before that, it was trying to figure out how to get victims to them, right? Because of being trapped within that forest, so to speak. And with the children being so entertained by this clown, it hit them an epiphany. You know, doesn't matter how old you are, in this case thousands of years old, but it sat there and realized, I'm doing it all wrong. So after the performance, we see in the performance, throughout the performance, Bob drinking a little bit. He seems to be a little heavy on the flask there. And the performance is of him finding out his wife died, and the beavers and the rabbits that he was chasing that were stealing his flowers were really for his wife to be laid with the flowers, okay? And his daughter, after the performance, shows him her makeup and wants to show that she wants to be part of the, family legacy, so to speak, right? Especially probably missing mom so much. And he named her Periwinkle after the mom's, stage name, and she was so touched by that, you know what I mean? Because it was like she gets to carry on her mother's legacy. We see Bob a few more in pretty much the next scene, him drinking and kind of being by himself behind all the tents and stuff, and he's approached by this boy looking for help and everything, and Bob is trying to shoo him away until he hears screams from the woods behind the boy, and the boy leads him to say that that's his mother needing help. And that's most likely when the entity killed Bob and decided to take Pennywise as his avatar, so to speak. And then Ingrid and the rest of the circus find out that something must have happened to Bob. They chalk it up to a wolf attack because they found his handkerchief full of blood. Okay, so this whole episode is full of tragedy, right? Of the past and present and the future. And so we pick up in the current cycle of it at the black spot where we left a group of angry people there looking for Roddy's dad, threatening weapons and everything. And the people at the I'm gonna call it the speakeasy, so to speak, the club. They're not willing to. They're even denying he's there, and they were like, "Well, we got guns too, but they're government issued, right?" And so there's a standoff there. They know now he's there because he's like, "I don't want anyone dying." He comes out trying to sacrifice himself, but they're not letting him go. And so the group of angry people leaves. Or so we think. But what they really did was they chained the doors and set the place on fire, knowing that there's women, army dudes in there, children. They knew that there was innocent civilians in there. Even if you didn't want to believe that the guy was innocent of killing the children from the movie theater, right? You can still equate that to the anger of thinking that he did this, right? And it's just saying that he's not guilty, right? But the fact that there's so many other dozens of other people in there that were innocent to this whole thing, made this one of the biggest tragedies of Derry. And I would say probably that one of the bigger tragedies of the year in the country. But with 1962 in America, there was a lot of tragedy going on. A lot of people being monsters. That's the one thing that we have to remember when it comes to Pennywise or the entity. It's not inserting things that are not already there. The anger is there by these people. The monstrosity is how people treat each other. It's just that Pennywise just turns that up to 11, okay? But it's already on 9. It's already on 9, okay? It's not like he's choosing people or choosing situations in which it's just two people making friendship bracelets and then all of a sudden they're killing each other. It's tensions that are already there, already sleeping just underneath the surface, and one little thing can add a charge to the powder keg and everything explodes in everyone's face. Just an explosion on your face. Okay? And so that's what Pennywise tries to add to the situation. He's like a subliminal poop talker, a shit stirrer. There's already a problem there. He just adds to it. He wants there to be a fight over it, okay? As opposed to de-escalating the situation. He wants it escalated as much as it can be. And, man, I tell you, this was one of the more wilder scenes in the movie. It got pretty graphic. At one point, Ingrid was there, because knowing that in her mind the father was going to be there, Pennywise, and while she was there, she came across her husband, and her husband was like, "What the hell is wrong with you? Why are you dressed like that?" And everything, and she's like, "He's here," and Pennywise, man, cuts this guy's head like this way, all right, and his head falls off, and he starts eating it like an orange. And he's like, "Oh, what do I got? Some fish on my fish?" And nearly takes Ingrid out, but he does some sort of. He opens his mouth all the way and kind of like mind wipes her or something like that. And so she's out for the count. Ronnie and Will and Ronnie's father was able to escape. Will Halloran was able to escape. I mean, yeah, right. Will, right? Will Halloran? No, not Will Halloran. Gosh darn it. Dick. Dick Halloran. Sorry about that, guys. He winds up escaping too. Will's father and mother wound up making it there to the black spot after the fire was put out. But not everyone of the main characters that we've been following were able to escape the tragedy. Rich, man. Little guy Rich. One of the best characters, kid characters out of the show. He sacrificed himself to save Marge because they were both trapped in the fire and there was nowhere else to go. And he told Marge to get into this big box, right? And there wasn't enough room in there for the both of them, and he knew that. And he stayed on top of the box so she wouldn't get out, to try to save him. Because he figured that they both wouldn't have made it out there unless he did this. And as he was sitting there, laying there on the box, and she's crying and begging him and telling him, like, I love you and everything. Which I do think that, I will say children may not know love like that quite so early outside of your family, but I believe it in this instance because of the bonding they've done. You could, care for someone and love someone without it being an obvious physical relationship, right? And I think that that's what this is, a sweet relationship that is kind of like your first boyfriend, girlfriend type of situation where it's just a very innocent and sweet type of love. And he was laying there referring to an earlier conversation they had. And he was like, because he was afraid to go to the bathroom at night, so he was peeing in a jar. And he's like, you know what else knights do? Besides keep jars of piss near their bed. He say they sacrifice themselves to save their fair maiden. And he just kind of just keeps talking to her until he passes out. And a part of you wishes and hoping that, when the fire department winds up eventually coming, they'll find him barely alive, right? Barely clinging to life. And that's not the case. A little rich man was taken out by this tragedy. And that really hit me in the heart, man. Because, like I said, he was one of my more favorite characters out of the show. And out of the kids, I think he was a very good actor. I think that if he wants to stay in the business, he'll have a bright future ahead of him for sure out of the kids that are involved. Yeah, so be prepared for that. Obviously, I spoiled it, but yeah. So after the fire department comes and everyone's trying to the survivors are trying to process everything. They do find out through they wind up finding one of the pillars, okay? Because after the fire, Halloran finds one of the pillars due to him seeing the old chief of the tribe lead him to where her grave is, and that's where they buried one of the pillars. So the military takes the pillar and telling Leroy, the major, right, Will's dad, they're going to go to run some tests on it or whatever, but they really intend on destroying it. And if they destroy it, it's going to open up an area for the entity to come and escape and start spreading its power. And this is where we get that the general, saw that that's exactly what he wants. He wants to use fear not only against his enemies, but against the citizens of America, and can help control everyone by fear. So he's not really been doing this out of the greater good for America, but to rein his people in, to rein in the Americans also. And little does he know that the tighter your grip gets, the more looser people are able to slip through. So Leroy has no choice but to let them do it, because he gets cornered from behind and is told by the General Shaw, leave. As he's leaving, the general tells his right-hand man, make sure that man doesn't leave this base. Now we know he does, because his grandson is in a character in It Chapter 2. So we know he survives, okay? Because he's raising his grandson in those movies. So we'll find out what happens with Leroy and everyone in the next episode. And the last scene is Will being confronted by Pennywise. Everyone thinks he's back in his slumber, but because the pillow was moved, it alerted Pennywise, and now has made him come back real quick, looking more terrifying than ever. The way he sleeps is terrifying. And he confronts Will and kind of does the same thing to Will that he did to Ingrid, which is that opens his face, opens his mouth, and beams his light into his face, and that's where we end the episode. Again, this episode is full of tragedy, full of sadness, and that's exactly the way Pennywise loves it. Now, what's going to happen in the next episode, only time will tell. It will wrap up the 2-month span of this season. I don't know if there'll be any more seasons after this, but it would be interesting to see how they go about wrapping everything up. The military, the tribe, everything, the kids. But let me know down below what you think about this episode, about this season. Remember how awesome and amazing all of you are. And until next time, peace.